You have seen my love so far, not my madness. The words spill from me like a prophecy, low and trembling, echoing through the marble halls that have known every secret I've ever tried to bury. Love, that word feels too fragile now, too small to contain what lives inside me. What I feel for her has long surpassed the boundaries of tenderness. It is a fever that consumes everything it touches. I have loved her with restraint, with patience, with a hand that trembled between caress and command. But she has mistaken that patience for weakness. She looks at me as though I am a man who can be reasoned with, as though my devotion has limits. It does not. I would burn kingdoms, unmake gods, and tear down the sky itself if it meant she would finally understand the depth of this chaos that carries her name. There are nights when I walk the length of her corridor, stopping before her chamber door, listening to the faint rhythm of her breath. She sleeps so peacefully, unaware that the entire palace bends around her, that even the shadows wait for her movement. I tell myself to leave, to give her the distance she craves, but my body betrays me. My hand lingers on the door, my pulse quickens. I can almost feel the pull between us, a magnetic force neither of us can deny. Does she know what she's done to me? That she has turned a ruler into a man begging for her gaze? That her silence now holds more power than any army I command? This is not love anymore, this is worship, madness dressed in velvet and crown. I see her in every reflection, in the ripples of the fountain, in the glass of my wine, in the smoke curling from the candles. I have tried to exorcise her image from my mind, but she is everywhere, stitched into the fabric of my existence. When she walks past me, the air itself changes. It bends toward her like a servant recognizing its queen. And in those moments, I hate her for it, for the control she wields so effortlessly, for how she makes me small in my own palace. But that hate dissolves as quickly as it comes, replaced by the ache of wanting her again. I am caught in an endless loop. Love that devours, hate that feeds it, desire that won't let me rest. They call me prince, but I am a prisoner of my own making. The chains I once forged for her now bind me tighter. I tell myself she should be grateful, that I have given her everything, that the world outside would have destroyed her softness. But the truth is cruel. I cannot bear the thought of her existing in a world where I am not. Every sunrise she sees, every breath she takes beyond my reach feels like theft. And so I build higher walls, close more doors, pretend it is protection when I know it is possession. Perhaps that is my madness, the inability to distinguish between love and captivity. Sometimes, when she dares to defy me, when her eyes flash with that wild, dangerous light, I almost admire her courage. She throws my words back at me like blades, and I take every wound willingly. She does not realize that her defiance keeps me alive. It's in those moments when she stands unafraid before me that I remember why I fell in love with her. Not for her beauty, though she has plenty of it, but for the storm inside her that refuses to yield. I have seen queens bow and warriors tremble, but she stands tall even when her heart trembles. She is the chaos that makes me human, the fire that unmakes the prince and leaves only the man behind. The nights grow colder now. The palace, once alive with music and warmth, has become a silent witness to my descent. The servants avoid my eyes. They whisper of a curse, of a prince who has lost his reason to a woman's shadow. Maybe they are right. I have stopped pretending to be sane. Madness is not a fall, it's a surrender, and I have surrendered completely. When I close my eyes, I see her, not as she is now, but as she was when she first came here, defiant and untamed. I reach out, but she fades like smoke between my fingers. The more I try to hold on, the more she becomes an illusion, and that illusion is the only thing keeping me alive. One day, she will see it, the full extent of what my love has become. She will see that I am not her savior, not her captor, not even her prince. I am a man consumed by the very fire he tried to control. When that day comes, she will understand that love, when denied, turns into something far darker, a force that bends even kings to their knees. Perhaps she will hate me for it, perhaps she already does, but I no longer seek her love or forgiveness. I only seek her understanding that every cruel word, every desperate act was born from the same place as my gentleness. She has seen my love. Now she will see the storm it has become. And if the world must burn for her to feel it, then so be it. The night hangs heavy over the palace, thick with the kind of silence that feels alive, a silence that listens, breathes, and waits for something to break. The torches flicker low, their flames trembling as if afraid of the darkness they're meant to hold back. I walk through the halls barefoot, the cold marble echoing beneath my steps. The world outside sleeps, but I cannot. Sleep has abandoned me. It no longer finds home in a heart that beats with obsession instead of rhythm. Every corner of this place whispers her name. Every shadow wears her face. I tell myself I can endure this hunger, but it grows stronger with every passing breath. Love was a wound I thought I could manage. Madness, however, bleeds differently. It stains everything. I used to rule this kingdom with reason. Every decision was precise, every word deliberate. Now I find myself driven by something primal, an ache that knows no logic, no restraint. I think of her constantly, how her voice softens when she's lost in thought, how her eyes shift from defiance to sorrow in the quiet moments she thinks I don't see. I imagine her behind those locked doors, wrapped in candlelight, unaware of how her existence keeps me tethered to this crumbling sanity. My advisors speak of treaties, of enemies beyond the borders, but their words sound distant, hollow. What good is power when the one thing I crave cannot be commanded? She is the one war I can never win, because every victory feels like defeat. I see her sometimes in the courtyard at dawn. When the mist still lingers like ghosts, she walks among the roses, touching each petal as if memorizing softness in a world that has grown hard. I watch her from the upper balcony, hidden behind stone and shadow. There's something cruel about how the light adores her, how it dares to touch her when I cannot. In those moments, jealousy claws through me, sharp and alive. The sun, the wind, even the flowers, they all have what I do not, her acceptance. I tell myself that she belongs here with me, but the truth is, she does not belong anywhere that cages her. And I am the one who built those bars. I have begun to speak to her when she's not there. I whisper into the empty air of her chambers, trace the edge of her vanity mirror with my fingers, and pretend she can hear me. I tell her stories of the boy I used to be, the one who believed love was something pure, something gentle. I tell her of the man I became, shaped by a crown that taught me everything has a price. But what I never say aloud, even to the walls that know too much, is this: I would give up every piece of gold, every inch of this kingdom, if it meant she would look at me once, just once, without fear. Love has turned into longing, and longing into lunacy. Still, I keep talking, because silence feels like death, and I have already died too many small deaths in her absence. The palace mirrors my decay. The candles burn faster, the air feels colder, and the mirrors, those cursed mirrors, have begun to distort my reflection. I look into them and no longer see the prince they once painted me to be. I see something hollow, eyes too wild, smile too soft for the madness it hides. I try to remember when it began, the shift from desire to desperation, but there is no single moment. It crept in quietly, like ivy crawling up the walls, beautiful at first, then suffocating. Now, Even when I speak her name, it feels dangerous, like invoking a spell I can no longer control. I think of unlocking her door sometimes. I imagine walking in unarmed, unguarded, letting her rage crash over me. I imagine her shouting, her striking me, her breaking down in tears, anything that would make her real again, anything that would remind me that she is flesh and not a ghost haunting these endless halls. But I never do it because I fear that if I open that door, she will look at me and see not a man who loves her, but a stranger, someone she can no longer recognize beneath the weight of his obsession. And perhaps she would be right. Perhaps I have already become that stranger. I tell myself there's still time to find redemption, to give her back the freedom I stole. But every time I stand before those gates, the same thought paralyzes me. Once she leaves, I will never see her again. The world will take her, claim her laughter, her light, her gaze, all the things that make her who she is, and I will be left with nothing but echoes. And yet, I know that if I truly love her, I must let her go, even if it means watching my own world collapse. Madness whispers otherwise, tells me to hold her, keep her, never surrender her to fate. But love, the last fragile piece of it that still survives, whispers a single truth, that what is meant to stay will never need to be locked away. The storm outside has been raging for days. The sky trembles as though the heavens themselves are losing patience with me. Lightning splits across the horizon, and for a brief second, the world glows white, a moment of clarity that vanishes just as quickly as it appears. I stand by the tall window, my reflection fractured against the glass, the face staring back at me hollowed and tired. The man I see is not the prince they once sang about. He is something else now, something raw, desperate, and unrecognizable. I wonder when exactly I became this creature, when love turned into a slow kind of ruin that devours from within. Maybe it was the first time she looked at me not with awe, but with pity. Maybe it was long before that. The palace feels haunted, though not by spirits. It is haunted by her silence, by the echo of footsteps that never return, by the faint scent of jasmine that lingers long after she's gone from a room. I tell myself she is still here, that I can feel her presence, that she hasn't yet faded from these walls. But sometimes even I cannot tell if it's truth or hallucination. My mind has begun to blur the line between memory and reality. I see her everywhere, sitting by the fire, brushing her hair near the mirror, turning her head to look at me from across the hall. And each time I blink, she disappears, leaving me with nothing but the emptiness she left behind. The kingdom beyond these walls still exists, though I have long stopped ruling it. Ministers come and go, their words meaningless, their loyalty fragile. What is a kingdom to a man who has already lost the only thing that gave it worth? The crown weighs heavier now, pressing against my skull like a punishment rather than an honor. It reminds me of the promises I made to protect, to rule, to be just. Yet, in all my vows, I never learned how to love without breaking what I loved. Power teaches you how to hold, not how to cherish. And so I held her too tightly, thinking it would keep her safe, never realizing that even a gentle grip can become a cage if it never lets go. Every night I walk through the east wing, her wing, the doors closed, the curtains drawn, the air cold and still. The room remains untouched. Since the last time she stood there, the faintest trace of her perfume lingering like a ghost refusing to leave. Her books are still open on the table, a single rose, now dried and brittle, lying across its pages. I cannot bring myself to move it. Sometimes I sit in her chair, tracing the outline of her handwriting, reading the words she once marked. There is one passage I always return to, underlined in faint ink. Love that seeks to own will always destroy what it desires. I didn't understand it then. I do now. Sleep no longer visits me. When the moonlight seeps through the curtains, I lie awake and imagine what freedom might have felt like for her, to walk beyond the gates, to breathe air that wasn't mine, to live without the weight of my gaze. Perhaps she's somewhere far away now, where the world is kind and no one knows her name. Maybe she no longer dreams of this palace or the man who tried to love her the wrong way. And yet, some nights, I let myself believe that she still thinks of me, not with affection, but with a strange, bittersweet ache, because even if I was her prison, I was also a part of her story. A scar, yes, but still a mark that time cannot fully erase. There are moments when I think of ending it all, of walking into the sea that borders this cursed land and letting the waves claim me. The thought brings both peace and fear. Peace, because the madness would finally end. Fear, because I might meet her spirit there and she would turn away. No, I cannot do that. I deserve this. To live, to remember, to carry the weight of what I've done. This palace will remain my punishment. Its empty halls my confession. Every sound that echoes here will remind me of what I destroyed in the name of love. I once thought eternity was a gift reserved for kings. Now I know it's a sentence meant for fools. And yet, despite everything, a part of me still waits. I still find myself listening for her footsteps, turning at the slightest whisper of the wind, hoping it carries her voice. Maybe that's the last piece of madness that refuses to die. Hope it lingers stubbornly, cruelly, keeping my heart alive when it should have turned to stone. If she ever returns, even as a shadow, even as a ghost, I will fall to my knees before her. I will not beg for forgiveness. I am far beyond deserving it. I will simply tell her the truth, that she was right to run, that she was right to break me, and that even in her absence, she is the only part of me that still feels real. The sea has become my only companion now. From the highest balcony, I can see it stretching endlessly, a mirror of everything I once was, vast, powerful, and merciless. The wind howls through the towers like a wounded beast, carrying with it the scent of salt and memory. Sometimes, if I close my eyes, it almost sounds like her voice, distant, broken, calling my name through the storm. I answer it in silence, because words have long abandoned me. I have said all there is to say. Everything left is either regret or madness. The palace stands behind me, an empty carcass of marble and gold, echoing with ghosts that refuse to rest. They whisper her name too, like a prayer that's lost its faith. I still walk the corridors at dawn, though they lead nowhere now. The guards have stopped announcing my presence. Even they know there is no royalty left in me. I am merely a shadow wandering the ruins of his own creation. Sometimes I pass the great mirrors and catch glimpses of myself, a stranger, wearing my crown, eyes hollow and wild. The madness has softened, not vanished. It hums quietly beneath my skin, patient, watchful. I have stopped fighting it. Perhaps it's all that remains of me, the final proof that I once felt something so fiercely it burned everything else away. If this is punishment, then I accept it. For once, I will not run from the truth. The kingdom thrives without me. I hear reports from distant ministers, trade restored, harvests rich, the people content. How strange that the world keeps turning, indifferent to the collapse of a man. They still call me prince, though the title feels like mockery now. I have become a ghost story parents tell their children, the ruler who caged love and lost his soul. They do not know my name, only the echo of my sin. Perhaps it is better that way. Let them forget the details and remember only the lesson that love, when twisted by fear, becomes a weapon sharper than any sword. Her room remains untouched, though dust has claimed the corners. I cannot bring myself to cross that threshold anymore. Once I stood there for hours, waiting for her scent to fade, for the air to lose her warmth. It never did. Even now, when the sun hits the window at a certain angle, I can see the faint outline of her reflection on the glass, as if she's still there, standing behind me. The mind plays cruel tricks when it has too much memory and too little hope. I reach out sometimes, my fingers brushing the air where her shoulder might have been, and for a heartbeat, it feels real. Then the light shifts, and I remember she is gone and I am still here. At night, I sit in the throne room with no audience, the candles burning low until the wax bleeds down like tears. I speak to her as though she's sitting across from me, and perhaps, in some way, she is. I tell her about the days I've survived, about the things I've learned too late. I tell her that love is not meant to be contained, that freedom is the truest form of devotion. I imagine her smile, not the soft, forgiving kind, but the proud, knowing one she wore when she defied me. If she could see me now, she would not pity me. She would simply say, "Now you understand," and I would bow my head and whisper, "Yes." Sometimes I think I see her in dreams. She walks through the halls in white, barefoot, her hair loose, the same calm fire in her eyes. She doesn't speak, but I feel what she means to say that she has forgiven me, but not forgotten. There is peace in her gaze, and when she turns to leave, I do not follow. I stand still and let her go. Each time, it feels easier, like the world loosening its grip on my chest, like the sea finally calming after years of rage. Perhaps this is what healing looks like for a man like me, not joy, but quiet surrender. Now, as the storm fades and the morning sun begins to rise, I stand on the balcony one last time. The light touches my face, gentle, indifferent. I whisper her name into the wind, not as a prayer, not as a plea, but as an offering. Wherever she is, I hope she is free. I hope she laughs again without remembering me. And if she ever hears my name, let it not bring pain, but peace, the kind born from distance, from understanding. I once thought love was possession. Now I see it is release. And so I release her finally into the world I once tried to keep her from.